All right, here we go. Thank you for joining. Now, my advice to computer science students, learn SQL. Now, you're probably wondering, what is SQL and why should I learn it? So let me get into the slideshow, which I prepared especially for today's broadcast. Here we go. Um, what is SQL and why should we learn it? Let me make it a little bit bigger and let me get this over here. All right. Now, we're going to talk about websites, but we're going to talk about the back end of websites. We're going to look under the hood because most people are all excited about designing websites, and it's like, oh, I can make a website. I can make a website look that looks really pretty and has a lot of colors and nice fonts and a nice design and has all the words and text in nice columns. But we're going to look at the what it takes to make a website dynamic in the back end. We're going to look at it under the hood. Now, we're going to talk about what does that mean under the hood. Have you ever looked under the hood of a car? So if you go to the dealership or you go to a showroom and you're looking to buy a car or you're looking to lease a car, then you always look at what the car looks like on the outside. You look at the color of the car, you look at the tires, you look at the wheels, you look at the dashboard, you look on the inside, you look at the seats, you look at the how the car was, what the finish is. And basically you're looking at the inside of the car and where the seats are, and you're looking at the outside of the car. But usually you don't really put too much attention to under the hood of the car. You might ask about, is it a 4-cylinder? Or is it a 6-cylinder? Is it standard? Is it an automatic? Does it use unleaded fuel? Is it diesel? Things like that. So it's mainly about the looks of the car. Is it a sports car? Is it a truck? Is it a Jeep? But it's all about the looks. How does the car look on the outside, and how comfortable is it to sit in and to ride in and to drive on the inside? It's all about the looks and the feel of the car on the outside, but you don't really see the engine that makes the car run. I mean, after all, the car won't go anywhere without the engine. So let's go ahead and look under the hood. When you pop the hood, you see the ugly part of the car. This is the part that very few people understand unless you're an auto mechanic. And I have a cousin who is an auto mechanic. The engine, that's the most important part. That's the thing that makes the car run. Okay, it is the most important part of the vehicle. Yes, it's the engine. That's like the transmission, the fuel pump, the water pump, the alternator, the fuel gasket. So it's a whole series of components which need to work together, which will allow the car to go forward, go in reverse, which will let it sit idle, which will allow the vehicle to drive. So when you step on the gas, that's the part which makes the car basically drive. So it's the same thing with websites. You can make a web page and just type in the text. You can make a very simple web page in a simple text processing program like Notepad, but the website won't do anything. It's very static. The website won't allow you to make any changes to it, and you won't be able to display any information from the outside unless you attach a database to it. So that's what we're going to look at next. Everybody wants to design websites. Now, everybody wants to build nice looking websites, but in order to make a website more dynamic, you need a database. Now, you can make a simple web page or website using two pieces. If you just have HTML, the hypertext markup language, and CSS, cascading style sheets, then you can make a nice looking web page. You can also make a static web page using software, using a free tool like WordPress. But a static website normally can't store any user information. You can't change, you can't insert, or you can't delete any information unless you install special extensions or plugins. So, if you're a computer science student, are you ready to gain a new superpower and to make dynamic websites? Let's go on. Now, what do these big websites have in common? So, we're talking about big website, the biggest on the internet. So, we're talking about Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Yahoo, YouTube, TikTok, WhatsApp, and Twitter. They each have some sort of database backend. So the graphical interface, which shows all the text and the pictures and the videos, that's called the front end. But the database behind it that you normally don't see, that's called the back end. So for example, for Google, it's all the search information. You type in something that you're looking for, and Google has a very large database of all the pages and all the articles and all the pictures and all the videos that are stored on the internet. Each one has a title and a description and an address and a name of an author and a date that it's been uploaded and a date that it's been modified. All the pieces of information which goes with each piece that's on the internet that is stored in a database at Google. Facebook, same thing. You type in articles in Facebook, you can upload videos to Facebook, you can post pictures on Facebook. All that stuff needs to be stored somewhere. Facebook has large databases for that. LinkedIn as well. When you want to get on LinkedIn, what do you need to do? You need to log in. You have to have a user ID and a password. Any website where you need to first log in with an ID, an email address, a password that has a database. Right off the bat, you have to have a database of members, of users. Right off the bat, right there, you have to have a database. Yahoo, same thing. You have to log in to Yahoo to get to your email, to get to your groups, to get to your pages. YouTube. YouTube is a database of video files. And the YouTube website is linked to the Google website because YouTube is owned by Google. TikTok, same thing. That's like a chat website and an app as well. WhatsApp, same thing, is a chat website. Twitter is for posting tweets and for reading tweets. That's also a very large website. A tweet is nothing but a short article, which is then broadcast to all the people who are following you. So you have a list of members on Twitter, and you have a list of tweets that those members can post. And you have a list of followers. Who are your followers on Twitter? So they each use a database or several databases. So what is a database? For example, a list of customers, a list of orders. Customers place orders, for example, Amazon. A list of site members. Patreon has members, for example. A list of posted videos, YouTube. A list of posted articles, Facebook. A list of pictures. There are numerous picture websites where you can download clip art and photos and pictures. A list of songs with their artists, you name it, Spotify. A list of contacts, when you have Yahoo, your email, or your Gmail with contacts. Outlook has contacts. A list of web addresses or bookmarks. You always get a little database of bookmarks which come with your web browser. That's like a little database right there. Database is made up of tables. A table is a predefined list of data. A table is like a list. A database is a collection of tables. So several tables make up a database. Now, these tables can be related to one another. For example, a customer can place orders on a website. such as Amazon. There is a table for customers and there's a table for orders. So you have a table which lists all the customers, people who buy stuff on Amazon, and you have a list of all the orders which the Amazon customers place on the Amazon websites. One customer can have many orders. So you can have one customer, but if he orders something every week, he has 4 or 5 different orders per month. Now, SQL or SQL, but we pronounce it SQL, is the script used to retrieve data out of the database and to modify the data, to insert new data, or delete data from the database. So you can make changes to the data in the database using SQL. Now, what can you do with SQL? Well, if you know SQL, you can select the data out of tables which are in a database. You can insert new data into tables in a database. You can update the existing data in tables in a database, or you can delete existing data from tables in a database. These operations are called transactions. So the transactions are select, insert, update, and delete. Those are the most common transactions in SQL. You can display the results of each transaction on your web pages. So if you have a web page which is now tied to a database, then you can add information. You can type in stuff like for example, you can add pictures. You can go on your website and you can insert photos. And then when you close the website and you come back tomorrow, those photos are still there. Why? Because they're stored within a database. If you already know how to code, then you have a big advantage over other developers if you add SQL to your list of skills. Many businesses require a basic knowledge of SQL when hiring new web developers. And knowing HTML, CSS, C#, ASP, Python, etc. is not enough to get you in the door. So most websites and mobile apps use some sort of database at the back end where an understanding of SQL is required. So if you just know how to program Python or C# or ASP, that is great. But then at the very minimum, you know how to create a web page. But if you add to your knowledge SQL, then you also know how to tie your web page to a database backend. And then you can let your web page, doesn't matter if it's done in C# or Python or ASP, then you can display data from a database on your web page, which will make it dynamic. And that is very, very cool. Now, some versions of SQL, there are many more, but these are some of the common ones. Microsoft has a version called T-SQL or Transact SQL, and that is used a lot on a very common platform called Microsoft SQL Server. Oracle, I started out as an Oracle programmer, has a version called PL-SQL, and that stands for Procedural Language SQL. MySQL is called SQL PSM, and that stands for SQL Persistent Stored Module. And IBM DB2, it's called SQL PL or SQL Procedural Language. So those are the very common ones. I am mostly familiar with the Microsoft and Oracle ones. I've done a little bit in DB2 when I worked on the mainframe and my previous job. And let me tell you, yeah, I probably did the most in Oracle. That was a lot of fun. But I had to go to the SQL class before I started on these. Now, with SQL skills, you are able to retrieve more data efficiently and quickly, so you can get a ton of data using just a few SQL statements. You can manipulate more data in less time needed, so you can change and alter and delete a lot of data. So you need to be careful. You need to know what you're doing. You can combine data from different data sources, so you can get data from multiple tables in multiple databases if you need to. You can manage large collections of data easily, like millions of records. So not only can you update just hundreds of records or dozens of records, you can update, if you have a large database, you can update millions of records. SQL can run on local computers, but it can also be used across networks. So if you're working on a database which is stored on a network on a at a location, then you can actually do that as well. SQL is commonly used in websites and mobile apps such as banking apps, blogs, and shopping websites. I can bet you that Amazon has a lot of SQL in their website. There are more SQL jobs out there than jobs for Java, JavaScript, C++, Python, C++, and PHP. And I actually got that off of a website. I did not make that up. So if you already know Python and C Sharp and C++ and PHP, you will add to your skill lists if you learn SQL. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And that's a quote by Ben Franklin. So, my best advice to anyone who's a computer science student these days is before or while you're learning Python or C Sharp or PHP, take the time and get to learn and study SQL. Thank you for watching, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Please take this to heart. I thought that was really, really good. So that's the end of that. So let me get my mouse to work here. Here we go. All right. So thank you for watching, and please leave a comment and give me a like and subscribe to the channel if you thought that was very useful. And I'll see you then in the next episode. Thank you.